A poor Omega once sheltered a wounded wolf in the darkest hour before dawn, not knowing it was the Alpha King bleeding out on her doorstep. She dragged him inside her crumbling cottage with hands that had been forbidden to heal for 10 years. Hands marked with silver scars from a gift her grandmother was executed for possessing. She knew what she was risking. She knew that the moment her healing light touched his skin, she was signing her own death warrant. But something in his scent, pine smoke and winter frost, wild and impossibly familiar, made her wolf whimper a word she had never dared to believe: mate. She worked through the night, pouring every drop of her forbidden power into pulling him back from death. She removed 3 silver arrows. She whispered prayers to gods who had abandoned her bloodline. And when the sun finally rose and the wounded wolf shifted into a man, a king sprawled unconscious on her floor, she stepped outside to find 300 wolves sitting in silence around her cottage. They had come for their alpha. They were waiting for him to wake, and she realized, with the kind of terror that steals the breath from your lungs, that she had just saved the one person in the entire kingdom who could destroy her, or the only person powerful enough to protect her. She didn't know which it would be, but that morning, when the Alpha King opened his eyes and looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped asking 8 years ago, everything she had sacrificed to stay hidden began to unravel. Because his wolf recognized her, and hers had already claimed him. But to understand how a woman who swore never to be seen came to stand beside a king in front of the entire realm, we need to go back to the beginning, to the night she stopped believing in fate, and the morning fate found her anyway. The cottage smelled like rosemary and damp wood. Mira knelt on the floor beside her herb table, fingers working the leaves into precise piles. Thyme for infection, yarrow for bleeding, wolfsbane for the wolves she would never heal. She had learned to work quickly, to think only of the task in front of her. Outside, the first light of dawn crept through the forgotten woods like something afraid to be noticed. Mist clung to the pines. The world was gray and quiet, and hers alone. She liked it that way. Mira reached for the cracked stone mortar and paused. The fracture had widened overnight. She traced the split with her thumb, considering. She could fix it. Her gift was good for more than flesh and bone. She had mended pottery before, a broken axle once, a crack in the cottage foundation that would have let the winter in. But every time she used her power, she felt the risk of it, the exposure. Her hands itched. She set the mortar down and stood. The fire had burned low. She fed it 2 thin branches and watched the flames climb. 10 years ago, her grandmother had knelt on the palace platform with her hands bound behind her back. The charges were treason, consorting with dark magic, using forbidden gifts to save a prisoner condemned by the crown. Mira had been 13, small enough to hide in the crowd, old enough to understand what she was watching. The executioner's blade had fallen at noon, and the Silvermoon bloodline healers who had served the Wolf Kingdoms for 3 generations was erased in a single stroke. Mira exhaled slowly and pushed the memory down. It did no good. The past was a wound that would not close, and she had learned not to pick at it. She crossed to the shelf where she kept her gathering basket. The herbs were running low. She would need to venture deeper into the woods today, closer to the places where wild sage grew thick and the air smelled like rain-soaked earth. Dangerous, but necessary. A soft sound stopped her. A flutter near the window. Mira turned and saw the bird. A small brown sparrow, crumpled on the sill, one wing bent at an unnatural angle. It was still breathing, but barely. She should leave it. She told herself that every time. Her wolf stirred, pressing against her thoughts. Heal, help. The instinct was older than logic, older than fear. Mira moved to the window before she could stop herself. She scooped the bird into her palms, cradling it gently. Its heart fluttered against her skin. Fragile. Dying. She closed her eyes. The light came easily now. Too easily. It bloomed beneath her palms, silver and warm, spreading through the bird's small body like water finding cracks. She felt the bone knit back together, felt the torn muscle seal, felt the life strengthen and steady. When she opened her eyes, the sparrow blinked at her. Whole, healed. She set it on the sill and watched it fly away. Then she looked down at her hands. The silver scars across her palms glowed faintly in the dim light. Proof of what she was. Proof of the crime her bloodline had been executed for carrying. She scrubbed her hands on her skirt until the glow faded. Stay hidden, she whispered to the empty room. Stay alive, that's all that matters. The words had become a rhythm, a mantra, a promise she made to herself every morning and every night. Because the moment someone discovered what she could do, what she was, she would be dragged before the same court that had killed her grandmother. And there would be no mercy for a Silvermoon. Not in this kingdom, not anywhere. Mira pulled her cloak from the peg by the door and wrapped it around her shoulders. The fabric was worn thin, patched in 3 places, but it was warm enough. She would gather what she needed and return before dark. She would stay invisible. She would survive another day. She reached for the door handle and froze. A sound cut through the stillness of the woods, distant but unmistakable. The crack of branches snapping, the heavy thud of something large moving fast. Too fast. Mira's wolf bristled. Danger. She pressed her ear to the door and listened. The sound grew louder. Closer. Something was crashing through the trees, something massive, something hurt, something that should not be this close to her cottage. Her pulse kicked hard. She should bar the door. Douse the fire. Hide until whatever it was passed by. But her wolf was whining now, a low sound of distress that made her chest ache. The crashing stopped. Silence fell. Mira counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. Then she heard it. A sound that made her blood go cold. A wet, rasping exhale. Close. Just beyond the tree line, something was dying on her doorstep. Mira grabbed the knife from the table and unbarred the door. The cold hit her first. Snow had begun to fall while she'd been inside, soft and silent, blanketing the ground in white. The woods were darker than they should have been this close to dawn. The trees stood like sentinels, black against gray. She stepped carefully into the clearing, her breath misting in the frozen air, and saw him. 20 feet from her door, a massive black wolf lay crumpled in the snow. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and spreading. 3 silver arrows jutted from his body, one through his shoulder, one in his ribs, one buried deep near his spine. Mira's wolf howled, loud, frantic. The sound tore through her chest like a physical wound. She should go back inside. Bar the door. Pretend she'd never seen him. An alpha this size meant power. Power meant danger. And a wolf with silver arrows in his body meant someone wanted him dead badly enough to use the one thing that could kill their kind. Her feet carried her forward anyway. She dropped to her knees beside him. The snow soaked through her skirt instantly, freezing and wet. She pressed her fingers to his neck, searching for a pulse. There. Faint. Fading. The wolf's chest rose and fell in shallow, ragged breaths. His fur was matted with blood and snow. The scent of him hid her pine smoke and winter frost, wild and clean and utterly wrong beneath the copper tang of death. Her hands began to glow before her mind caught up. No. She couldn't do this. If he survived, if he remembered, if he told anyone what she could do. Her wolf snarled. Mine. Save. Ours. Mira's fingers trembled as silver light bloomed beneath her palms. She grabbed the wolf by his front legs and pulled. He was enormous, easily twice her weight, maybe more. Her boots slipped in the snow. Her shoulders screamed, but she dragged him inch by inch across the clearing, through the door, into the warmth of her cottage. She kicked the door shut and barred it. Then she knelt beside him and began the work that would either save them both or destroy her. The arrows came out one at a time. She gripped the first shaft with both hands and pulled straight. The wolf's body jerked. A low whine escaped his throat. Blood welled hot and fast. Mira pressed her glowing hands to the wound and poured her gift into him. The light spread through his body like water through cloth, seeking the damage, mending torn muscle and shattered bone. She felt the silver poison fighting her, dark and thick, clinging to his blood. Wolfsbane. Enough to kill an alpha twice over. She worked through the second arrow, the third. Hours passed. The fire burned low. Her hands shook with exhaustion, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Every time she tried to pull away, her wolf clawed at her thoughts, desperate and insistent. She used her rarest herb's moon petal to draw out poison, silverleaf to knit bone, things she'd been saving for years, things she couldn't replace. She didn't care. The wolf's breathing steadied. His heartbeat grew stronger beneath her hands. Mira slumped back against the wall, gasping. Her vision swam. She'd given too much, pushed too far. But he was alive. She closed her eyes for just a moment. When she opened them again, pale dawn light was filtering through the window. The fire had died to embers. And the wolf was gone. In his place, sprawled on her floor beneath the quilt she'd thrown over him sometime in the night, was a man. Mira froze. He was massive even in human form. Broad shoulders, muscled arms, black hair falling across a face that was all sharp angles and hard lines. A scar cut through his left eyebrow. His chest rose and fell in the slow, steady rhythm of deep sleep. He was also completely naked. Heat flooded her face. She looked away, pulse hammering. The royal sigil. She'd seen it tattooed across his ribs when she'd been working to stop the bleeding. A wolf's head crowned with stars. The mark of the Northern Reach. This wasn't just any alpha. This was the Alpha King. Mira's breath caught. She pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting down the surge of panic. What had she done? She'd healed the king. The 500th used forbidden magic on the most powerful wolf in 7 kingdoms. He'd been semi-conscious when she'd worked on him. His eyes had flickered open once, maybe twice, and he'd seen the silver light pouring from her hands. He knew. She had to run, now. Before he woke. Before he could speak her name to his guard. Before he could drag her back to the palace and sound cut through her spiraling thoughts. Soft. Rhythmic. Growing louder. Footsteps in snow. Hundreds of them. Mira's wolf went still. Every instinct screamed danger. She moved to the window and looked out. Her legs nearly gave out. Wolves. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. They sat in perfect rings around her cottage, silent and motionless, their eyes fixed on her door. Gray wolves and brown, russet and white. All of them massive. All of them waiting. She stumbled back from the window. Her hand found the door handle. She shouldn't go outside. She should stay hidden, stay silent, stay invisible like she'd done for 10 years. But she had to know. Mira unbarred the door and stepped into the snow. The wolves didn't move, didn't growl or bare their teeth. They simply watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. She counted the nearest ring. 30 wolves. Then another ring beyond that. And another. 300. Maybe more. An entire battalion. The Alpha King's guard. They tracked him here. They were waiting for him to wake. And when he did, when he told them what she'd done, what she was, Mira's throat closed. She looked at the wolves, at the cottage behind her, at the man sleeping on her floor who could condemn her with a single word. "Oh gods," she whispered. "What is he?" Mira stumbled back into the cottage and slammed the door. Her hands shook as she threw the bar across. 300 wolves. An army. Waiting outside her door like she was the only thing standing between them and their alpha. Because she was. She pressed her back against the wall and tried to steady her breathing. Think. She needed to think. But her wolf was howling, frantic and insistent, and the scent of pine smoke and winter frost filled every corner of her cottage until she could barely breathe through it. A sound pulled her attention to the floor. The man stirred. Mira grabbed the spare clothes from the hook by the fireplace. An old tunic and trousers that had belonged to a traveler who'd paid her in fabric years ago and threw them at him. They landed across his chest. "Put those on," she said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He opened his eyes. Gray-blue, sharp, focused on her with an intensity that made her wolf whine low in her chest. He sat up slowly, the quilt sliding down to his waist. Mira looked away, but not before she saw the way his gaze dropped to her hands. to the silver scars across her palms. "You healed me," he said. His voice was rough from disuse, deep and commanding even when quiet, the voice of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Yes," Mira said. "Why?" She didn't have an answer for that, or she had too many. Because her wolf had demanded it, because leaving him to die would have been impossible, because she was a fool who couldn't help herself even when survival depended on it. "I don't know," she whispered. He pulled on the tunic. It was too small across his shoulders, but it covered him. The trousers barely fit. He stood, unsteady for a moment, and braced one hand against the wall. Mira kept her distance. "You need to leave." "I will," he said. "But first I need to know who you are." "No one. Your name." "It doesn't matter." He took a step toward her. She took a step back, her spine hit the wall. "It matters to me," he said. Mira shook her head. "You don't understand. Those wolves outside, they're yours, aren't they?" "Yes." "Then you're someone important, someone powerful. And She stopped herself. "I'm no one. A rogue Omega, no pack, no family, no one who matters." His jaw tightened. "My wolf disagrees." The words hung between them. Mira's pulse kicked hard. "Your wolf is mistaken," she said. "Is it?" He lifted his hand slowly, giving her time to move away. She didn't. He reached for hers, his fingers brushing the silver scars on her palm. "I felt this. When you healed me, I felt you." The bond flared the moment his skin touched hers. It wasn't gentle. It was a surge of heat and recognition, a pull so strong it stole the breath from her lungs. Her wolf surged toward him, desperate and joyful. "Mate, mine, ours." Mira yanked her hand back. "No. You feel it too," he said. "It doesn't matter what I feel. It's the only thing that matters." She shook her head, backing toward the door. "You need to leave, now. Before what?" His gaze searched hers. "Before my guard realizes what you are to me. Before you realize what I am," she said. He went still. "What do you mean?" Mira's throat closed. She couldn't tell him. If he knew, if anyone knew, she would end up on the same platform her grandmother had. She would die the same death for the same crime. A knock sounded at the door. Heavy, insistent. "My king." A voice called from outside. "Are you well?" The man's eyes widened fractionally. Mira saw the realization settle over him. She'd heard the title. She knew what he was. "I'm fine, Reese," he called back. His gaze never left hers. "Give me a moment." "The guard is restless, sire. We've been tracking you since the ambush." "When we found your scent here," I said. "Give me a moment." The voice outside went silent. Mira stared at him. "You're the Alpha King." "Cassian," he said quietly. "My name is Cassian." Her legs felt weak. She'd healed the king. She, the 500th, used forbidden magic on the most powerful wolf in the Northern Reach. And now he was standing in her cottage, looking at her like she was something precious, and 300 of his wolves were waiting outside to see what he would do with her. "Please," she whispered. "Just go. Forget you ever saw me. Forget I exist. I can't." He took another step toward her. "My wolf won't let me. The bond." "There is no bond," Mira said. Her voice cracked. "Your wolf is wrong. I'm no one. Nothing. You need to leave and never come back. Tell me your name." "No." "Why are you so afraid of me?" "I'm not afraid of you." She was terrified of what he represented. Of the palace. Of the court that had executed her grandmother and would do the same to her the moment they learned what she could do. "I'm afraid of what happens if you stay." Cassian studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled up the hem of his tunic, revealing his ribs. The royal sigil sat just below his sternum, a wolf's head crowned with stars, inked in black. "Do you know what this means?" he asked. "That you're the king," Mira said. "The first already know that. It means I can protect you." "From what?" "From whoever hurt you badly enough to make you live alone in the woods with no pack and no name." He lowered the tunic. "You saved my life. Let me return the favor. I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection. Another knock, harder this time. Sire, we need to move. If there are more rogues in these woods. I'm coming, Cassian said. He looked at Mira. I'm bringing you with me. Panic flooded through her. No. Absolutely not. You're in danger here. Whoever ambushed me knows I came to these woods. They'll come looking. And when they find you, I've survived 10 years on my own. I'll survive this. Not anymore. His voice softened. Not now that you're my mate. I'm not. My wolf recognized you the moment you touched me. You felt the bond. I know you did. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. I don't know who you are or what you're hiding, but I know you're mine, and I don't leave what's mine unprotected. Mira's wolf keened. Yes, ours. Stay. She shoved the feeling down. I can't go with you. You don't have a choice. You can't just... The door rattled as someone tested the bar. My king, the 1000th coming in. Cassian moved between Mira and the door. Stand down, Rhys. I'm fine. With respect, sire, you were dying 6 hours ago. Forgive me if I don't take your word for it. Cassian glanced at Mira. Something passed through his eyes. Regret, maybe, or resignation. He turned back to the door. I'm opening the door now, he said. And when I do, you will treat the woman inside with the respect due to a guest of the crown. Is that understood? A pause. Understood. Cassian unbarred the door. A man stepped inside, older, scarred, with gray streaking his dark hair. His gaze swept the cottage, landed on Mira, and went sharp with assessment. He looked at Cassian, then at Mira again. This is her, he said, not a question. Yes, Cassian said. The one who healed you. Yes. The man called Rhys studied Mira for another moment. Then he inclined his head. My lady. Mira shook her head. I'm not. Prepare a mount, Cassian said. She's coming back to the palace with us. No, Mira said. I'm not going anywhere. Cassian turned to her. The look in his eyes was patient but unyielding. I'm sorry, but I can't leave you here. My wolf won't allow it. And even if it did, I wouldn't. You're not safe. I've been safe for 10 years. You weren't my mate for those 10 years. The word hit her like a blow, mate, said aloud. In front of a witness, Rhys's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Understanding. Mira's hands clenched into fists. You can't do this. I can, Cassian said quietly. And I am. Within minutes, she was lifted onto a horse in front of the king, his arm locked around her waist, 300 wolves forming ranks around them. The cottage, her sanctuary, her prison, her home disappeared behind the trees, and Mira was headed for the one place she'd sworn she would never go, the Northern Palace, where her grandmother had been executed for the same gift Mira carried in her hands. The Northern Palace rose from the snow-covered hills like a fortress carved from stone and ice. Mira had seen it only once before the day they dragged her grandmother to the execution platform. She'd been 13, small enough to hide in the crowd, old enough to remember every detail. The palace looked the same. Cold, impenetrable, built to withstand sieges and keep secrets buried. Cassian's arm tightened around her waist as they rode through the gates. She'd spent the entire journey rigid against him, refusing to lean back, refusing to accept the warmth his body offered. Her wolf had other ideas. It pressed toward him constantly, seeking comfort, seeking closeness. She ignored it. The courtyard was chaos. Servants rushed to tend the horses. Guards formed ranks. Wolves shifted back to human form and pulled on clothes that had been waiting for them. Mira watched it all from her place in front of Cassian, her hands gripping the saddle so tightly her knuckles ached. This way, Cassian said quietly. He dismounted first, then reached up for her. She slid down without taking his hand, but he caught her elbow anyway, steadying her. The bond hummed at the contact. Rhys appeared at Cassian's side. Sire, the council will want a report. Later, Cassian said. They've been waiting since word arrived you were ambushed. I said later. Rhys's gaze flicked to Mira, then back to Cassian. Something passed between them, an understanding Mira couldn't read. Rhys inclined his head and stepped back. Cassian led her through corridors that smelled like stone and beeswax. The palace was warmer than she'd expected, heat rising from vents in the floor. Tapestries lined the walls, wolves in battle, wolves in ceremony, a kingdom built on strength and blood. He stopped in front of a heavy oak door. "These are the guest chambers. You'll be safe here." "I don't want to be here at all," Mira said. "I know." He opened the door. The room beyond was larger than her entire cottage. A four-poster bed dominated the space, draped in furs. A fireplace crackled with fresh flames. Windows looked out over gardens buried in snow. Mira stepped inside slowly. The scent of lavender and clean linen filled the air. A servant had already laid out fresh clothes on the bed, soft wool and silk, finer than anything she'd ever touched. She turned to find Cassian watching her from the doorway. "You can't keep me prisoner here," she said. "You're not a prisoner. You're a guest. Guests can leave. Not when leaving puts them in danger." Mira crossed her arms. "I've been fine for 10 years. You weren't my mate for those 10 years. He stepped into the room. "Whoever ambushed me knows I was in the Forgotten Woods. They'll come looking, and when they find your cottage, they'll find it empty. I'll be long gone." "Where?" Cassian asked. "Where will you go that's safer than here?" She didn't have an answer for that. He moved closer, careful and deliberate. "Please, just stay. 3 days. Give me time to find who's hunting me and make sure you're not caught in the crossfire." 3 days, Mira said. "Then I leave." 3 days. A knock sounded at the door. A servant entered, a young Omega with kind eyes and copper-red hair. She curtsied to Cassian. "This is Lyra," Cassian said. "She'll help you with anything you need." Lyra smiled at Mira. "Welcome, my lady." "I'm not." Mira stopped herself. "Thank you." Cassian lingered in the doorway. "I'll have food sent up. Rest. We'll talk more tonight." He left before she could argue. Lyra moved about the room with quiet efficiency, lighting candles and checking the fire. She didn't ask questions, didn't stare at Mira's worn clothes or the dirt still clinging to her boots. Just worked. "There's a bath through there," Lyra said, gesturing to a side door. "And fresh clothes. His Majesty said to make sure you had everything you needed." "I don't need anything," Mira said. Lyra's smile turned sad. "Everyone needs something." She left Mira alone. Mira waited until the door clicked shut, then tried the handle. It turned easily. She stepped into the hallway and found 2 guards flanking the entrance. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like statues. She retreated back inside and closed the door. Not a prisoner, a guest. The distinction felt meaningless. Hours passed. Food arrived: roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables she hadn't tasted in years. She ate because her body demanded it, not because she wanted to. A bath was drawn. She sank into water hot enough to sting and scrubbed 10 years of forest living from her skin. When she emerged, wrapped in a robe softer than clouds, she found Cassian standing by the fireplace. She stopped. "How did you get in here?" "My chambers are next door." He gestured to a connecting door she hadn't noticed. "I knocked. You didn't answer. So you let yourself in. I wanted to make sure you were all right." "I'm fine." He didn't look convinced. He'd changed clothes, clean trousers, and a dark tunic that made his eyes look more gray than blue. His hair was still damp from his own bath. "There's something you need to know," he said. Mira's fingers tightened on the robe. "What?" "I've been cursed." The words came out flat, emotionless. "A witch placed a hex on me 8 years ago. It's been killing me slowly, weakening my wolf, draining my strength. Why are you telling me this?" "Because when you healed me last night, something changed." He took a step closer. "I'm stronger now than I've been in months. The curse is still there, but it's not progressing, and the only thing that's different is you." Mira's pulse kicked. "I didn't do anything." "You saved my life." "That doesn't mean. The bond is keeping the curse at bay," Cassian said quietly. "My wolf is stronger when you're near. I can feel it." Then reject the bond, Mira said, her voice cracked. Find someone else, someone better. There is no one else. You're my mate. You don't know anything about me. I know you live alone in the woods. I know you have a healing gift you're terrified to use. I know someone hurt you badly enough to make you think you deserve to be invisible. And I know that when I woke up this morning and saw you standing in that cottage, my wolf recognized something it's been searching for since the day I took the throne. Mira backed away. This is a mistake. Why? Because I can't be what you need. What do I need? A queen, a partner, someone who can stand beside you in front of your court without. She stopped herself before she said too much. Without what? She shook her head. Cassian studied her for a long moment. Then he said, 3 days. That's all I'm asking. Stay here. Stay safe. Help me figure out who's trying to kill me. Then, if you still want to leave, I won't stop you. Liar, her wolf whispered. He'll never let us go. 3 days, Mira said. 3 days. He left through the connecting door. She heard it lock from the other side. Mira sank onto the bed and stared at her hands. In the firelight, the silver scars across her palms looked like spiderwebs. Evidence of every healing she'd done in secret. Every risk she'd taken. And now the bond was amplifying her power. She could feel it. A faint glow beneath her skin. Magic that had always been there but was growing stronger. More insistent, harder to hide. She curled her fingers into fists and pressed them to her chest. 3 days. She could survive 3 days. Then she would leave this place and never look back. A sound cut through the quiet. Low. Mournful. Rising from somewhere beyond the connecting door. A wolf's howl. Mira's breath caught. She knew that sound, knew what it meant. Cassian's wolf was calling for her. And hers was answering. She pressed her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. The bond thrummed between them, a living thing that refused to be ignored. That night, she didn't sleep. Neither did he. 3 days passed like a slow bleed. Mira spent them avoiding Cassian. She took meals in her room. She walked the corridors when she knew he was in council meetings. She kept her hands hidden in the pockets of the borrowed dresses Lyra had brought her. But the bond made hiding impossible. She felt him constantly. A warmth in her chest that flared whenever he was near. A pull that made her wolf whine and scratch at her thoughts. At night, she pressed her hands to the connecting door between their chambers and felt his presence on the other side, just as sleepless, just as restless. On the 3rd evening, she slipped into the palace gardens. The sun hung low, painting the snow-covered grounds in shades of amber and rose. The air smelled like winter and earth. Mira knelt beside a patch of frost-resistant sage and began harvesting leaves, needing something useful to do with her hands. You're leaving. She didn't turn. She'd known he would find her eventually. Yes, she said. Cassian moved closer. She heard his footsteps in the snow, slow and deliberate. When? Tonight. You can't. 3 days, Mira said. That was the agreement. The agreement was that you'd stay until you were safe. I'll never be safe here. She pulled another leaf, careful not to bruise it. And you know it. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, My curse is returning. Her hands stilled. I can feel it, he continued. His voice was rough, tired. The weakness, the pain. It's been getting worse since yesterday. The only time it eases is when you're near. That's not my fault. I'm not saying it is. Then what are you saying? She stood and faced him. He looked exhausted. Shadows beneath his eyes, tension in his jaw. That I'm trapped here because your wolf decided we're mates? That I have to give up my life to keep you alive? No. He stepped closer. I'm saying I don't know how to let you go. The honesty in his voice made her chest ache. You have to, she whispered. Why? Because I can't be what you need. You already are. You don't know what I am. Then tell me. Mira shook her head. She turned to leave. He caught her wrist. The bond flared at the contact. Heat rushed through her, electric and overwhelming. Her wolf surged toward him, desperate and hungry. Please, Cassian said. Just stay. A few more days. Let me find who's hunting me. Let me make sure you're safe before you. I've survived 10 years on my own, Mira said. I don't need you to protect me. Maybe I need to protect you anyway. She pulled free and walked faster. He followed. Why are you running? He asked. I'm not running. You've been running since the moment I brought you here. Because being here is dangerous. More dangerous than the Forgotten Woods? Yes, why? She stopped, spun to face him. Because this place killed my family. Because these gardens. Her voice cracked. My grandmother died 20 feet from where we're standing. She was executed on a platform in front of the entire court for the crime of healing someone. And you want me to stay here? You want me to pretend I'm safe? Cassian's expression shifted. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Mira. No. She backed away. I can't do this. I can't be here. I can't be near you. Why not? Because it hurts too much. The words hung between them. Raw. True. Cassian moved toward her slowly, like she was something wild that might bolt. I've spent 8 years waiting to die, he said quietly. 8 years ruling a kingdom that's trying to kill me, knowing I wouldn't live long enough to see it whole again. I gave up hoping for anything beyond survival. And then you. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. You're the first thing in 8 years that's made me want to live, he said. Mira's throat closed. I don't care about the bond, he continued. I don't care what my wolf says. I care that when I'm near you, I remember what it feels like to want something beyond the next breath. I care that you saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. I care that you're standing in front of me right now, terrified and trying so hard to be brave, and all I want is to... He stopped himself. To what? She whispered. His gaze dropped to her lips. The space between them felt charged. Electric. Her wolf was howling. Yes, ours. Claim. Mira knew she should step back, should run, should do anything except what she did next. She kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and aching. 10 years of loneliness and 3 days of longing breaking through every wall she'd built. She grabbed the front of his tunic and pulled him closer, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent fire racing through her veins. His hands found her waist, her back. He kissed her like she was air, and he was drowning, like she was the only solid thing in a world that had been trying to kill him for 8 years. Her wolf sang. And then Mira remembered where she was. The palace gardens. 20 feet from the execution platform. The place her grandmother had died, screaming. She ripped away from him, gasping. I can't, she said. I can't do this. Mira, you don't understand. She ran. He followed her through the corridors, past servants who ducked their heads, past guards who stepped aside. She didn't stop until she reached his chambers closer than her own. The door unlocked. She stumbled inside. Turned. He was right behind her. Tell me, he said. His chest heaved. Tell me why you're so afraid. Because if they find out what I am, they'll kill me. The words tore out of her. A silver moon. Cassian went still. My grandmother was executed 10 years ago, Mira said. Her voice shook. She used her healing gift to save a prisoner your court had condemned. They called it treason. They called it dark magic. They dragged her to the platform and... She couldn't finish. The silver moon line was erased, she whispered. Every record. Every trace. I was 13. I watched from the crowd. And I've spent every day since hiding what I am because I knew if anyone found out, I'd end up on the same platform. Cassian stared at her. She could see him processing it, understanding flooding his features. That's why you live alone, he said. Yes. That's why you're terrified of the palace. Yes. And that's why you think I can't protect you. You can't. Her hands clenched into fists. Your court executed my family. Your laws made me a criminal for being born. How can I trust that you won't? He crossed the space between them in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. Mira froze. I will burn this kingdom to ash before I let anyone hurt you, he said against her hair. You can't mean that. I do. You're the king. You can't just... I can do whatever I want. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. And what I want is you. Safe. Alive. Here. Cassian. I don't care what your bloodline is. I don't care what the court thinks. You're my mate. And I will protect you. You can't protect me from your own kingdom. Watch me. The certainty in his voice made her wolf keen. Mira pressed her forehead to his chest. This is going to destroy you. No, he said quietly. Losing you would destroy me. They stood there in the firelight, holding each other, the bond settling warm and golden between them. Neither of them noticed the servant who'd seen them in the gardens. The one who'd watched Mira's hands glow silver as she'd touched the sage. The one who reported directly to Lord Thane. In the royal archives, Thane pulled a leather-bound ledger from the restricted section. He opened it to the page marked Silvermoon Execution, Year 1016. He read the charges, the testimony, the sentence, and he smiled. The guards came for Mira at dawn. She woke to the sound of boots in the hallway, heavy and deliberate. The connecting door to Cassian's chambers was still locked. She'd heard him pacing all night, his wolf howling at intervals that made her chest ache. The door to her room opened without a knock. The council requests your presence, the guard said. His face was carefully blank. Mira rose slowly. She pulled on the simplest dress Lyra had left her gray wool, no embroidery, nothing that would draw attention. Her hands shook as she braided her hair. She knew what this was. The throne room was colder than she remembered. Stone walls rose 3 stories high, hung with banners bearing the wolf's head crest. The council sat in a semicircle facing the throne, 12 wolves in formal robes, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Cassian sat on the throne. He looked like he hadn't slept. His jaw was tight, his hands gripped the armrests, and his eyes found hers the moment she entered. Don't, she thought. Don't give them anything to use against you. Lord Thane stood at the center of the semicircle. He smiled when he saw her. Thank you for joining us, my lady, he said. Mira didn't correct the title. She stopped 10 feet from the council and waited. We've called you here regarding a matter of grave concern, Thane continued. He gestured to a servant standing near the wall, young, nervous, the same one who'd brought Mira tea in the gardens. This witness has come forward with troubling information. The servant stepped forward. He wouldn't meet Mira's eyes. Tell the council what you saw, Thane said. I saw the lady in the palace gardens 3 days ago, the servant stammered. She was harvesting herbs, and when she touched them, her hands, they glowed, silver light, like magic. The council murmured. Mira's pulse kicked, but she kept her face calm. Magic is not uncommon among healers, Cassian said from the throne. His voice was cold, controlled. The council knows this. Indeed, Thane said, but healers register their gifts with the crown. They submit to training and oversight. This woman has no records, no pack, no history before she appeared in the Forgotten Woods. He pulled a leather-bound ledger from beneath his robes and opened it. I took the liberty of researching her claim to healing abilities, Thane said, and I found something interesting in the archives. 10 years ago, a woman was executed for treason. Her name was Elena Silvermoon. She was accused of consorting with dark magic and using forbidden healing to undermine the crown. Mira's fingers curled into fists. The Silvermoon line was condemned, Thane continued. All records destroyed, all descendants exiled or eliminated. He looked at Mira. Yet here stands a young woman with silver-scarred hands, healing magic, and no traceable past, a woman who appeared in the woods where our king was ambushed, a woman who healed him just enough to keep him alive but not enough to break the curse that's been killing him. Enough, Cassian said. I believe, Thane said, raising his voice, that this woman is a Silvermoon, and I believe she was sent by the witch who cursed you, my king, to finish what the rogue started. The mate bond is simply her method of control. The throne room erupted. Counselors argued. Guards shifted. Cassian stood and the room went silent. You will not accuse my mate of treason, he said. I accuse her of nothing, Thane said smoothly. I merely present the evidence and ask the council to decide. An elder woman at the far end of the semicircle, Maris, Mira remembered, leaned forward. Is it true? She asked Mira. Are you a silver moon? Mira met her gaze. Lying would only make it worse. Yes, she said. The room exploded again. Cassian moved toward her, but Rhys stepped into his path. 2 more guards flanked the throne. The council demands her arrest, Thane said over the noise. Ancient law is clear. A mate accused of treason must stand trial, and the Alpha King cannot intervene on her behalf. I am the king, Cassian said. His voice was low, dangerous. I can do whatever I want. Not this, Maris said quietly. The law was written to prevent exactly this. A king blinded by the mate bond, unable to see treachery in his own chambers. If you intervene now, the council will question every decision you make going forward. I don't care. You should, another counselor said. The kingdom is already unstable. Your curse has weakened your authority. If you defy the council now, you risk civil war. Cassian's wolf was rising. Mira could see it in the way his muscles tensed, the way his eyes began to shift. She could feel it through the bond rage and desperation and the overwhelming need to protect her. If he shifted here, in front of the council, everything would be lost. It's all right, Mira said. Cassian's gaze snapped to hers. I'll go, she said. I'll stand trial. Let them present their evidence. No. Cassian, please. She took a step toward him. The guards moved to block her, but she ignored them. Trust me. Their eyes locked. She willed him to understand. Fighting this would destroy him. Destroying him would kill her more surely than any execution. Cassian's hands were shaking. His wolf was right there, seconds from breaking free. Rhys put a hand on his shoulder. Sire, he murmured, let the law proceed. We'll find another way. For a long moment, Cassian didn't move. Then he stepped back. The guards seized Mira's arms. She didn't resist. She kept her gaze on Cassian as they dragged her toward the side exit, watching his control fracture piece by piece. She was returned to her chambers. The door locked from the outside. The windows were barred. Her sanctuary had become a cell. Mira sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her hands. The silver scars across her palms seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Evidence. Proof of what she was. She could feel Cassian through the bond. His wolf was clawing at him, desperate to reach her. She pushed back gently. Wait. Trust me. Don't destroy yourself for me. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. No one came. Then, as the light began to fade, the lock clicked. Mira stood. Thane entered alone. He closed the door behind him and smiled. I thought we should talk, he said. Mira said nothing. You're very brave, Thane continued, or very foolish. I haven't decided which. He moved to the window and looked out. The king loves you. That much is obvious, but love won't save you from the executioner's blade. What do you want? To offer you a choice. He turned to face her. Confess. Tell the council you were sent by the witch to seduce the king and weaken his wolf. Name me as the one who helped you slip into the palace undetected. I'll corroborate your story, and in exchange, I'll make sure your execution is quick, painless, merciful. Mira's jaw tightened. And if I refuse? Then you'll burn, Thane said. His smile widened. Just like your grandmother, on the same platform, in front of the entire court. And I'll make sure the king has the best view in the kingdom. The lock clicked open just before dawn. Mira jerked awake. She'd been sitting against the wall, knees pulled to her chest, trying to quiet the bond that screamed with Cassian's wolf's fury. Now she scrambled to her feet as the door swung inward. Cassian stood in the doorway. Behind him, Rhys and another captain she didn't know. All 3 moved silently. We're leaving, Cassian said. His voice was rough. Raw. What are you doing? Mira whispered. If they catch you, they won't. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her against him. The bond surged, warm and desperate. She felt his wolf press against her thoughts. Mine, safe, ours. I can't let you do this, she said against his chest. I already did. Rhys gestured from the doorway. We have 5 minutes before the guard change. Cassian released Mira but kept her hand in his. They moved through the corridors like ghosts down servant stairways, through passages Mira hadn't known existed. The palace was vast and silent. Every shadow felt like a threat. They stopped at a heavy oak door. Cassian pushed it open and pulled Mira inside. The war room was smaller than she'd expected. Maps covered the walls. A table dominated the center, cluttered with reports and correspondence. A single lantern burned low. Reese and the other captain took positions by the door. Cassian released Mira's hand and moved to the table. "I've been hunting the witch for 8 years," he said. He pulled a leather folder from beneath a stack of papers and opened it. "I've tracked her movements, her known associates, the rogues she's hired. And 3 months ago, I found something." He spread several documents across the table, letters, records, notes in a careful hand. "The witch was hired," Cassian said. "Someone at court paid her to curse me. Someone who wanted me dead but couldn't risk open challenge." Mira moved closer. "Who?" "I don't know. She used intermediaries, false names. But I found payments traced back to the palace treasury, small amounts, spread over years, untraceable unless you knew what to look for." "Thane," Mira said quietly. Cassian's jaw tightened. "I suspect. But I have no proof. Nothing that would stand up to the council." He looked at her. "Until now." "What do you mean? Thane framed you too perfectly, too quickly. He had those records ready. He knew exactly what to say to turn the council against you." Cassian's hands gripped the table edge. "He's been waiting for this, waiting for me to find my mate so he could use the bond to destroy us both." "Then we need proof," Mira said. "We need a confession." "How?" Cassian turned to face her fully. "You go back to the cell. You let Thane believe he's won. And when he comes to gloat because he will, you get him to admit what he's done." Mira's wolf went silent. "You want me to be bait. I want you to survive this." His voice cracked. "I can't protect you from the council. I can't stop the trial. But if we can prove Thane orchestrated the curse and framed you, the council will have to acquit me," Mira finished. "Yes." She studied him. The exhaustion in his eyes. The desperation barely held in check. His wolf was right there, straining to break free and claim her, protect her, keep her safe from a threat he couldn't fight with teeth and claws. "No," Cassian said, reading her expression. "Don't even think about it. I won't let you. It's the only way. It's too dangerous. More dangerous than a public execution?" Mira moved toward him. "More dangerous than letting Thane win. If something goes wrong, then you'll be there." She reached up and touched his face. His skin was warm beneath her palm. "Won't you?" Cassian caught her wrist. His thumb brushed over her pulse. "I can't lose you. You won't. You don't know that. I know I didn't save your life just to watch you lose your kingdom." She held his gaze. "Let me do this. Let me help you finish it." They stood there in the lamplight, close enough that she could feel his breath against her hair, could smell pine smoke and winter frost, and the wild, desperate need of a wolf who'd found his mate and was being forced to watch her walk into danger. "If anything happens to you," Cassian said quietly, "there won't be a kingdom left to save. Then make sure nothing happens to me." He pulled her closer. His forehead touched hers, and for a moment they simply breathed together, the bond settling warm and aching between them. Then Cassian kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was fierce and claiming, furious with all the helplessness and rage he couldn't unleash any other way. His hands fisted in her hair. She grabbed the front of his tunic and held on. When he pulled back, his breathing was ragged. His eyes had shifted more wolf than man. He turned his head, exposing the line of his throat. "Bite me," he said. Mira froze. "Cassian." "Not a full claim. Not yet. But a promise." He met her eyes again. "So you know I'm not letting you go. So every wolf in this kingdom can smell that you're mine." Her wolf surged. "Yes, ours. Claim." "You're sure?" she whispered. "I've never been more sure of anything." Mira rose on her toes. She pressed her lips to the place where his neck met his shoulder-warm skin over muscle, over the pulse that beat steady and strong. Her wolf guided her. She let her teeth graze his skin, then bit down gently, not hard enough to break skin. Just hard enough to leave a mark. Cassian made a sound low in his throat. His hands tightened on her waist. The bond flared bright and golden, singing between them. When she pulled back, she could see the faint impression of her teeth on his neck. A mark, a claim, a promise. Cassian turned her in his arms and exposed her throat. "My turn," he said. She tilted her head, closed her eyes, felt his breath against her skin, warm and unsteady, then his teeth gentle, careful, claiming pressed into the curve of her neck. The bond sang. Not complete. Not sealed, but close enough that every wolf who saw them would know what they were to each other. Cassian released her slowly. His hands lingered at her waist. "You are mine," he whispered against her hair, "and I am not letting you go." "I know," Mira said. Rhys cleared his throat from the doorway. "Sire, we need to move." Cassian nodded. He pulled away from Mira, and she felt the loss of him like a physical ache. They moved back through the corridors, back to the cell. Cassian stopped outside the door and caught her hand one last time. "Rhys will be listening," he said. "The moment Thane says anything incriminating, we move. You understand? I understand. Don't try to be brave. Don't push him too hard. Just," his voice broke, "just come back to me." "I will," Mira said. She stepped into the cell. The door locked behind her. She heard Cassian's footsteps fade down the corridor. Then silence. Mira sat on the edge of the bed and pressed her fingers to the mark on her neck. It tingled, warm, real. She could feel Cassian through the bond. Close. Watching. Waiting. And somewhere in the palace, Thane was preparing for her trial, believing he'd already won. Mira settled back against the wall, her neck still tingling from Cassian's bite, and waited for the villain to make his mistake. They came for her at noon. The chains were cold against her wrists. Heavy. Mira walked between two guards through corridors that smelled like stone and winter air, her bare feet silent on the floor. She'd been given a simple gray dress, the same color condemned prisoners wore before execution. The mark on her neck tingled where Cassian had bitten her. A promise. A claim. She pressed her fingers to it as they walked. The throne room doors swung open. The crowd was massive. Hundreds of wolves packed the hall. Nobles in their finest clothes, common folk pressed against the walls, guards forming lines to keep order. At the far end, the throne sat empty. Beyond it, through open doors, Mira could see the platform, the same platform where her grandmother had died. The guards led her through the crowd. People stared. Some whispered. Others jeered. Mira kept her chin up and her eyes forward. She would not give them her fear. Outside, the midday sun was blinding. The platform rose from the courtyard like a stage. Wooden, stained dark in places. A post stood at the center with chains attached. Mira's wolf went silent. They chained her to the post. The metal bit into her wrists. She faced the crowd as they filed out of the throne room, filling the courtyard until there was no space left to stand. Then Cassian emerged. He wore his formal robes black and silver, the wolf's head crest emblazoned across his chest. His captains flanked him, Rhys on one side, another guard on the other. Both had their hands on Cassian's shoulders, restraining him. Mira could see the tension in Cassian's body, the way his hands shook, the wild, desperate look in his eyes. His wolf was right there, seconds from breaking through. He was forced onto the throne. His captains didn't move, didn't release him. Thane stepped onto the platform. He held a scroll in one hand. His smile was small. Satisfied. "The accused stands before you," Thane called out. His voice carried across the courtyard, charged with conspiracy with a dark witch and attempted murder of our king through cursed healing. The crowd murmured. Angry, hungry. "The evidence is clear," Thane continued. "She is a Silvermoon, a bloodline condemned for treason 10 years past. She appeared in the Forgotten Woods at the exact moment our king was ambushed. She used forbidden magic to heal him, binding him through the mate bond to ensure the curse would continue its work. That's not true, Mira said. Thane turned to her. Then confess. Tell us who sent you. Tell us where the witch is hiding. No one sent me. I acted alone. You admit to using dark magic. I admit to healing a dying wolf. Mira's voice strengthened. The same gift my grandmother used to save an innocent life. The same gift your court condemned as treason because it threatened your control. The crowd erupted. Shouts of anger. Calls for her death. Thane raised a hand for silence. Do you have anything else to say before sentence is carried out? Mira looked past him. Past the crowd. To Cassian on his throne. Their eyes locked. She felt the bond pull tight between them. Felt his wolf straining, desperate, fighting the hands that held him back. Felt his love and his rage and his absolute refusal to let her die. I love you, she mouthed. Cassian's control shattered. The air around him shimmered. His captains braced, but it was too late. Cassian shifted mid-throne, clothes tearing, a massive black wolf erupting where the king had sat. The crowd screamed. Cassian's wolf tore across the courtyard. Guards tried to block him. He went through them like they were nothing. His growl was thunder. His eyes were locked on Mira. He leaped onto the platform. Thane stumbled back. The executioner froze. Cassian shifted to human form, naked, furious, magnificent. He moved to Mira and cupped her face in his hands. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't, he said. Don't you dare apologize. Then he tilted his head and claimed her. His teeth sank into the mark he'd left the night before Gentleven, claiming now. The bond that had been straining between them for days snapped into place with a surge that stole the breath from Mira's lungs. Complete. Sealed. Theirs. Mira gasped. Her healing gift erupted without her permission, flooding through the bond, pouring into Cassian in a blinding wave of silver light. It spread from where they were connected, cascading across the platform, spilling into the crowd. The curse broke. Mira felt it shatter inside Cassian dark magic that had been slowly killing him for 8 years, dissolving like ash in sunlight. His wolf sang. The bond settled warm and golden and utterly unbreakable. But the light didn't stop. It swept across the platform and caught Thane like a net. Where it touched him, black marks appeared, symbols etched into his skin, dark magic burning against Mira's silver. The witch's mark. Proof of conspiracy. Thane's eyes went wide. He tried to run. Seize him, Cassian said. Rhys and 2 other guards moved instantly. They dragged Thane to his knees. The black marks on his skin glowed against the silver light still radiating from Mira. The crowd went silent. Cassian turned to face them. He was still naked, still holding Mira. His voice rang out across the courtyard. This man hired the witch who cursed me. He orchestrated my ambush. He framed my mate to cover his treason. Cassian's hand found the chains holding Mira and ripped them from the post. And you almost let him get away with it. The chains clattered to the platform. Mira's wrists ached where the metal had cut into her skin. Cassian pulled her against his chest, and she felt the steady beat of his heart beneath her palms. She saved my life, Cassian said quietly, twice, and you condemned her for it. Elder Maris stepped forward from the crowd. She looked at Mira, at Cassian, at the silver light still glowing faintly around them. Forgive us, she said. The council behind her knelt. Then the guards, the nobles, the common folk. One by one, the entire courtyard dropped to their knees. Cassian's arms tightened around Mira. She could feel him shaking. Relief, rage, love, all of it pouring through the bond they now shared completely. Mira looked up at him. At the king who the 500th risked everything to save her. Who'd shifted in front of his entire kingdom and claimed her on an execution platform because losing her was worse than losing his crown. Did Regis break every law in the kingdom? She whispered. Cassian laughed. It was rough and startled and utterly joyful, the first real laugh she'd ever heard from him. He pressed his forehead to hers, still shaking with it. "Probably," he said. "I didn't care. Neither did she." They brought Thane before the council in chains. Mira stood at Cassian's side in the throne room. He'd refused to let her leave, refused to let go of her hand since the platform. Someone had brought him clothes. She wore a borrowed cloak over her gray prison dress. The bond hummed warm and complete between them. The council assembled quickly. Every member who demanded her execution now sat in silence, watching Thane kneel before the throne with black marks still visible on his skin. Elder Maris spoke first. "Lord Thane, you stand accused of high treason, conspiracy with a witch to murder the Alpha King, orchestrating an ambush, framing an innocent woman." Her voice was cold. "How do you answer?" Thane lifted his head. His smile was gone. "I did what was necessary." "Necessary?" Cassian's voice was deadly quiet. "You tried to kill me. You were already dying," Thane said. "The curse was doing its work. All I had to do was wait. But then she..." He looked at Mira with pure hatred. "She ruined everything." "Tell them why," Cassian said. Thane's jaw tightened. Then he laughed, bitter and broken. "You want a confession? Fine. I hired the witch 8 years ago. Paid her to curse you the night of your coronation. Paid the rogues to ambush you in the Forgotten Woods. And when you survived, when you found your precious mate, I framed her to finish what the curse started." The council erupted. Thane spoke over them. "You were never meant to be king," he said. "Your father promised me the regency, promised me power. And then he died and left everything to you, a boy who knew nothing about ruling, who cared more about honor than strategy." His voice rose. "I've spent 8 years keeping this kingdom together while you played at being a leader. I deserved that throne." "You deserved nothing," Cassian said. The council voted swiftly. Execution, unanimous. But Cassian stood and raised a hand. "No." Maris frowned. "Sire, I won't give him the mercy of a quick death." Cassian's gaze was ice. "Strip him of his rank, his title, his name. Banish him to the Forgotten Woods. Let him survive alone, without a pack, without protection." He leaned forward. "Let him die slowly, the way he tried to kill me." Thane's face went white. "That's a fate worse than death," Maris said quietly. "I know." The guards dragged Thane away. He didn't fight, didn't speak, just stared at Cassian with hollow eyes as the throne room doors closed behind him. Silence fell. Then Maris turned to Mira. "Now we must address the matter of the Silver Moon." Mira's fingers tightened on Cassian's hand. He squeezed back. "Are you truly a Silver Moon?" Maris asked. Mira lifted her chin. "Yes." "Then you know your bloodline was condemned for treason. My grandmother was executed for saving an innocent life." Mira's voice didn't shake. "She used her gift to heal a prisoner your court had wrongly condemned. When the truth came out, when the real criminal confessed, you buried the evidence and called her a traitor rather than admit you'd been wrong." Maris's expression didn't change. "Can you prove this?" "No," Mira said. "The records were destroyed. But I won't apologize for carrying the same gift. And I won't pretend my bloodline deserved what you did to them," the council murmured. Maris studied Mira for a long moment. Then she stood. "You saved our king's life. You broke a curse that's plagued this kingdom for 8 years. You exposed a traitor we trusted." She inclined her head. "The Silver Moon line was condemned unjustly. On behalf of this council, I ask your forgiveness." Mira's throat closed. Cassian stood beside her. "Mira Silvermoon is my mate, my queen, and the first hereby pardon the Silvermoon bloodline and restore their name to honor." The council knelt. Every single one of them. Mira's vision blurred. She'd spent 10 years believing her name was a death sentence, and now an entire council was bowing before it. Cassian's hand found the small of her back, steadying her. The council rose. Business continued arrangements for the formal mating ceremony. discussions of Thane's replacement, matters of state that made Mira's head spin. She stood silent at Cassian's side, feeling the weight of every gaze that landed on her. When it finally ended, Cassian led her from the throne room. They didn't speak until they reached his chambers. He locked the door behind them, then turned to face her. "Are you all right?" he asked. Mira shook her head. "I don't know." He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest and finally let herself shake. "It's over," he whispered against her hair. "You're safe. You're free." "I'm still scared." "I know. I keep thinking I'll wake up and you'll be gone and I'll be back in that cell and—" He tilted her face up to his and kissed her. Soft, gentle, real. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." Mira's wolf hummed. The bond between them was warm and golden and utterly complete. But there was something missing. Something they'd done on the platform in desperation that needed to be renewed properly. In private. With intention. Cassian seemed to feel it too. His thumb brushed her jaw. "The bond is complete, but we should seal it properly," Mira finished. "Only if you want to." She looked up at him. At the king who the 500th risked everything for her, who'd claimed her in front of his entire kingdom, who was looking at her now like she was the most precious thing he'd ever held. "I want to," she whispered. He kissed her again, deeper this time. She rose on her toes and wrapped her arms around his neck, feeling the solid warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart against hers. When he pulled back, his breathing was unsteady. The claiming bite needs to be renewed. Both ways. "I know." He turned his head, exposing his throat. The mark she'd left days ago had faded. She pressed her lips to the spot, feeling his pulse jump beneath her mouth. Then she bit down, gentle but firm, tasting copper and magic and the wild scent of pine that had always been his. The bond flared bright. Cassian made a sound low in his throat. His hands tightened on her waist. When she pulled back, the mark was there permanent this time, sealed by the completed bond. He turned her in his arms and exposed her neck. She tilted her head, offering herself completely. His bite was careful, claiming. The bond between them sang as his teeth pressed into the exact spot he'd marked on the platform. Magic flooded through her, warm and golden and utterly right. When he released her, the bond settled. Complete, sealed, theirs. Mira sagged against him. The fear she'd carried for 10 years was gone. The weight of hiding was gone. She was seen, known, loved. She cried. Cassian held her through it, one hand cradling her head, the other wrapped around her waist. He didn't tell her to stop, didn't try to fix it. Just held her while she shook and wept and finally let go of everything she'd been carrying alone. When the tears finally stopped, she pulled back enough to look at him. "I was so afraid." "I know. I thought I was going to lose you." "You didn't." He brushed her hair back from her face. "And you never will." "Promise?" "I promise." She believed him. They stood there in the firelight holding each other, the bond warm and unbreakable between them. Mira could feel Cassian's wolf content, settled, wrapped around hers like a shield. "What do you want?" Cassian asked softly. Mira looked around the chambers, at the fire, the furs, the windows that looked out over a kingdom that had nearly killed her and now called her queen. "The first want to go home," she said. Cassian's expression shifted. "I'll have Reese arrange an escort to the cottage. You can take whatever you need." "No." She touched his face. "I am home." He went very still. "This is home," she said. "With you, wherever you are." Cassian pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "Then stay." "I will." They stayed like that for a long time, two people who'd been alone for too long, finally finding the place they belonged. And outside the window, the first snow of a new season began to fall. 2 years later, spring came to the Northern Kingdom like a benediction. Mira walked through the palace gardens with her hands full of light. A child sat before her, a boy no more than 6, cradling a broken arm. She knelt in the grass and let her healing gift flow, silver warmth spreading through his small body, knitting bone back together. The boy's mother watched with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "Just Mira," she said, the way she always did. The title still felt strange on her tongue, even after 2 years of wearing it. She finished the healing and helped the boy to his feet. He hugged her before running back to his mother, arm perfectly whole. They both bowed before leaving. Mira straightened and looked around the gardens. They'd been completely rebuilt. The execution platform was gone, torn down the week after her coronation. In its place stood a healing temple bearing the Silver Moon crest, open to anyone who needed help. Free, always. "You're going to exhaust yourself." Mira turned. Cassian stood on the temple steps, their daughter asleep against his chest. Elena, 6 months old, with Mira's dark hair and Cassian's gray-blue eyes. "I'm fine," Mira said. "You've healed 12 people today." 13. She crossed the grass to him and touched Elena's tiny hand. Their daughter stirred but didn't wake. "Someone has to." "Someone does," Cassian said. "You do, but you don't have to do it alone anymore." He was right. She'd trained 5 other healers in the past year. The Silver Moon gift was no longer forbidden, it was celebrated, sought after. The palace employed healers now, so did the temples in every major city. The bloodline her grandmother had died protecting was thriving. Mira leaned against Cassian's shoulder. He wrapped his free arm around her waist and pulled her close. They stood there in the golden afternoon light, watching the gardens bloom. "Do you ever regret it?" Mira asked quietly. "Regret what?" "Finding me. The cottage. All of it." Cassian was quiet for a moment, then he said, "Every day I'm grateful I was foolish enough to get myself shot." Mira laughed. The sound startled Elena, who blinked awake and immediately reached for Mira. Cassian passed her over carefully. Their daughter settled against Mira's chest and yawned. The bond between all 3 of them hummed warm and golden and complete. Mira's wolf pressed contentedly against her thoughts. Home. Pack. Safe. She looked out over the kingdom spread below them. The northern reach. Her kingdom now. Hers and Cassian's and Elena's. 10 years ago, she'd watched her grandmother die in these gardens. She'd run into the woods and sworn never to return. She'd lived alone, convinced she would die the same way, hidden, afraid, and utterly forgotten. Now she stood in the same place as Queen. Mate, mother, healer. The execution platform was gone. In its place, a temple of light. "I love you," she said. Cassian kissed the top of her head. "I know." Elena grabbed a fistful of Mira's hair and giggled. The sound echoed through the gardens, pure joy, unmarked by fear or grief or the weight of secrets that should never have needed keeping. And Mira realized, finally, that she was exactly where she belonged. The poor Omega who once sheltered a dying wolf in the darkest hour before dawn was now the most powerful healer in the realm. Loved, protected, home at last. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If it moved you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this tale of fated mates and forbidden healing, there are more stories waiting for you. Sometimes the greatest love stories begin with a single act of courage in the face of impossible fear. Until next time.